The dark psychology behind Scorpio's silence. What is the most dangerous response you can receive in a conflict? It's not shouting. It's not blame. It's not even an argument. It's silence. A specific kind of silence. Heavy. Complete. Absolute. When a Scorpio goes quiet, something profound has shifted. This isn't a pause in the conversation. It's the end of an internal one. For them, silence isn't the absence of a reaction. It is the reaction. And if you're on the receiving end of it, you have likely crossed a psychological line you didn't even know was there. This isn't about astrology as fate. This is about human behavior. The dark water of the psyche. Today, we're blending modern psychology and emotional intelligence to understand the deep, often misunderstood power behind a Scorpio's silence. The first, and most critical, mistake is to interpret this silence as weakness. As surrender. As if they have nothing left to say. You must understand, for the Scorpionic psyche, silence is the fortress. It is not a place of retreat, but a position of observation. When words are weaponized in a conflict, when emotions are used as currency, the Scorpio individual begins a strategic withdrawal. This is about emotional boundary setting of the highest order. While others are reacting, they are retreating inward, to a place you cannot reach. Their silence is a drawn bridge over a moat. It says, you no longer have access to my inner world. They are not passive. They are hyper-observant. They are cataloging. They are measuring your actions against your words, your energy against your history. Their silence is active listening on a profound scale. They are gathering data about your character, often data you didn't mean to reveal. Scorpio's silence is strategic, not passive. It is a conscious disengagement from a game they have decided is no longer worth playing. So what is happening in the brain? Let's move from metaphor to psychology. This silence is most accurately described as emotional withdrawal. In clinical terms, it is a defense mechanism rooted in self-preservation. When faced with perceived betrayal, disrespect, or emotional danger, some individuals don't fight or flee. They freeze. They detach. Think of it as an internal shutdown of emotional output to protect the core system. For someone with Scorpio traits, intensity, depth, and a low tolerance for superficiality, this is often triggered by a breach of trust. This connects directly to hypervigilance. Scorpio intuition is often a learned sensitivity to microexpressions, tone shifts, and inconsistencies. When that intuition detects threat or dishonesty, silence becomes the lockdown protocol. It can also be a trauma-informed response. Not always from a single major trauma, but from accumulated emotional wounds. The psyche learns, to show emotion is to show weakness. To engage is to give ammunition. The only way to win is not to play. They process emotions internally, in a deep, subterranean chamber. What others need to talk through, they need to feel through alone. Their external silence is a sign of immense internal noise. And this is where memory comes in. Scorpio memory is not a scrapbook. It is a ledger. Every interaction, every promise, every subtle slight is recorded. Not emotionally, but precisely. This is their internal accounting system. When you trigger their silence, you are not being judged on one moment. You are being judged on the pattern. This moment is simply the final entry in a column you didn't know existed. Their silence is the sound of them reviewing that ledger. Re-evaluating the entire relationship in light of new information. It's a ruthless internal audit. There is a vault inside them. Trust, intimacy, and vulnerability are stored there. Your actions have just proven you are no longer a safe keeper of that vault. So the door closes. The combination changes. The silence is the sound of that door locking. The point of no return being crossed quietly, without announcement. This becomes most painful after betrayal. This is when a Scorpio stops explaining. Stops arguing. Stops trying to be understood. Psychologically, this is emotional detachment. The bond has already been severed internally. For them, the relationship is already over. People beg for closure from a silent Scorpio. They demand answers, explanations, a final fight. But the truth is this: the silence is the closure. It says, "You have shown me who you are. I believe you." There is nothing left to discuss. More emotion would be a gift. And that gift is no longer available. Their silence is the consequence. The emotional equivalent of becoming invisible. And here lies the real power shift. When someone expects a reaction and receives nothing, it creates a psychological vacuum. That vacuum forces self-reflection. Scorpio's silence becomes a mirror, and the other person is left alone with what they see. Scorpio does not go silent to punish. They go silent to reclaim control. Control of their peace. Control of their energy. Control of their emotional space. Your words no longer land. Your attempts to provoke dissolve. The emotional power has been withdrawn completely. This is why it feels devastating. You are not being fought. You are being made irrelevant. This is emotional sovereignty in its purest form. So what remains? Understanding that Scorpio's silence is not cruelty. It is self-respect. It is the final boundary. They are not choosing hate. They are choosing peace. A peace that only exists on the other side of quiet. This silence is not erasure. It is archiving. They remember everything. But they have chosen to remove you from their present. It is the ultimate protection of a depth that feels too much, cares too much, and invests too deeply to ever do so carelessly again. Their silence is the final sentence in a story you thought was still being written. And they have closed the book. Have you ever gone silent not because you didn't care, but because you cared too much?